Well, thank you. Just a real quick question. I just have two quick show of hands questions. How many people in here consider themselves machine learning experts? And I'm not saying that in an egotistical way, just, are you ML experts in the audience? How many people out there have actually deployed a LLM app in production? Okay, pretty cool, pretty cool. All right, well, look, I ask because that's going to kind of determine how far down the rabbit hole we go here. I'm a product person, so I can't go nearly as far down the rabbit hole as some of my awesome colleagues that I work with in engineering, but they do involve me quite a bit, and so I'm very happy to be with you guys today. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the great work that the organization has done over time. Just to orient folks briefly, AnyScale, we're an AI app platform. We were founded in 2019, came out of a really cool project that was started at UC Berkeley by the PhD program. And they solved a really interesting problem that had to do with, delivering machine learning at scale across distributed compute environments. And, fast forward to 2023, and that software is used in some of the most interesting, most complex, largest AI systems in the world. A lot of the technologies you know and love leverage Ray under the covers to both train as well as to serve and deliver batch inference for a lot of the machine learning models that are out there that people use every day. Uber, DoorDash, Instacart, OpenAI, et cetera. And so, we've been really fortunate to be able to work with folks like this to help them bring AI to market. And I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened recently, because I was originally going to make this more of a RAG talk, but what we're really going to do today is talk about some of the things that have happened over the last 2 weeks, actually. We had a lot of releases happen. So let me get into it a little bit. So on the AnyScale side of things, we've been focusing specifically on LLMs for a little while now, and we've been making really, really fast progress. I want to share with you a little bit about our journey. It started off with just trying to figure out, how do we help people make good decisions around which LLMs to use for their applications? We saw that, there were a lot of proprietary success from folks like OpenAI and others, but we also saw that there was an opportunity to have open source models, have something to say. No pun intended, I guess. And so we created a technology, we called it Aviary, and it was all about, how can we run multiple models, help people understand how well they could perform quality-wise, and give them the ability to bake it off and figure out what LLM was most applicable for their application. One of the things that happened as we did that is we realized not only were we a good technology for building a website like that, but we also built technology that was also really good at managing multiple LLMs and running multiple LLMs at the same time. And so we took that and put it into a product. That's what we call AnyScale Endpoints. And it's basically OpenAI for open models. We made the Llama 2 family of models available, as well as fine tuning. So we had serving and fine tuning for, folks to be able to hit an API endpoint very, very quickly and easily. You'll see a little bit later what that allows you to do. The next thing we did was say, look, it's great that we can make this available publicly, but a lot of organizations might want to be able to turn LLMs loose on their private data, things that they don't want to go outside of their walls, or just want to have more control end to end over that data flow. And so we made private endpoints available that does all the same things and more that endpoints does, because now we want to give you more control over those models. And as I said, the platform is capable of doing much more when it comes to fine tuning, training of your own foundation models, even if you want to. And so we made the private endpoint solution available, added more models, keep fast forwarding, adding more and more models. But over the last couple of weeks, things have really kicked into high gear when it comes to not only models, but some of the capabilities that we're releasing alongside. And so what I'm going to talk about today is some of the new things that we have available. Show you guys a little bit about what those enable folks to do. And that's what I plan to talk about. All right, let's jump into it. All right, so one of the first things we did, not one of the first things we did, one of the first things I'll talk about is an integration that we built with Portkey. Portkey is essentially a front door to your LLM world, and it gives you, kind of an operational interface to wrap around your LLM application. So it gives you observability, It allows you to track how your LLMs are being used across various providers. And we're seeing more and more that folks are leveraging not just one model within their application. We're seeing folks oftentimes leverage multiple models within applications. They may have multiple general purpose models, whether it's a proprietary one and a combination of open source ones that they, make decisions about how to, shift the traffic back and forth between. And then you'll also sometimes find task-specific models sitting behind executing specific things. And so, solutions like this just, give you just more optionality, the ability to get reliability, load balancing, all that kind of stuff through your LLM application. It just gives you more options as you look to deploy something like that. This was the one that, that I think is kind of cool because I've been messing with it and trying to make it say all kinds of rude things. I call it the chaperone, but, as you guys may have heard, Meta released Llama Guard last week. I think it was last week. The time is moving so quick. It was last Thursday. And this one was all about making sure that we had an answer for content moderation. So if you recall, there was an AI alliance organization that was announced earlier that week. Later that week, there was the Llama Guard model that got released. It's based on Llama 2.7b, and it just basically gives you a result that's either safe or unsafe, and if unsafe, why. I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like if you haven't seen this. Not only are there default classifications, there's, I think, 6, maybe 7 default classifications that, categorize things like violence and hate and, all kinds of stuff, right? But, one of the fun or interesting things is that you can also create your own categories and classify your own things. And so that gives you more optionality now when you want to be able to figure out, like I said before, people are building these applications and starting to try to figure out, like, are there specific roles or are there specific tasks that certain LLMs can play in my application? And if so, things like this start to become yet another building block you can use to help classify traffic and make sure it goes to the right direction. I say that because what you ultimately have the ability to do with something like this is not only classify on the inbound direction, so you can make sure that the prompts that you're getting are, what you really want to be answering. And by the way, as an infrastructure company, we're oftentimes thinking about how you can optimize things, right? And so a lot of things we want to be able to do is make sure that not only you're not kind of receiving traffic that you don't want to receive, and so this is kind of a filter that can prevent your downstream or more expensive LLMs from getting hit with requests that you don't want them to get hit with. But we also can then also filter on the outbound direction. And so we can have the response actually classified so that, especially for organizations that are concerned either about reputation or, just making sure that the LLMs say the things that they want them to say, there's just more tools and more capabilities to give you control in both directions. All right. And this one, I think this one's huge, actually. I call it the programmer. It's interesting that LLMs were able to speak human before they spoke computer easily, interestingly. So this one gives you the ability to control how the LLM responds. In this case, specifically, you can tell it to respond using JSON. That's one option you have. You also can tell it to actually call functions. So you can actually add capabilities to your LLM that didn't exist before, or at least your LLM app that didn't exist before. You're not actually adding capabilities to the LLM. I'll take you through a couple of examples of what that actually enables you to do. So in one case, like in JSON mode, if you ask your standard LLM, and I think I asked, this was a Llama, I think it was 13B, I might have asked this question, but who won the World Series? It'll respond and say that the Los Angeles Dodgers won the 2020 World Series. That's interesting, but maybe you want a little bit more context around it than that. And maybe you want to make sure you use that context for something different. And so one of the things you're able to do is define the schema that you want for the output. And now when you ask the question, the LLM will respond with a more properly formatted answer. And so now this is something that you could use, you could leverage to do something more with. And that's interesting, but I think what's more interesting is that expands to function calling. And so now you can not only have it answer in a format that you want, but you can actually have it answer differently than it was able to do before. And so if you go to your typical LLM and you ask it, how's the weather in Hawaii right now? it'll tell you, I don't have access to real-time weather data. I know folks have probably run into that kind of, I was trained in, January of 2022 or something like that. But in this case, what you do is you define a function. You tell the LLM essentially how to choose that function. It does make the function call. And now you have the LLM understand that it needs to to run this function to be able to get the answer that it needs. And in this case, it calls another data source that is able to tell it, oh, the current temperature in Hawaii is 70 degrees. And so it's able to get the information that it needs to be able to give you the response that you need about something that's real time. And so when we think about, the types of things that this enables, not many people are training models from scratch, but a lot of people are considering fine tuning versus RAG and all that kind of stuff. And, this is yet another technique that folks have to add knowledge to the LLM, whereas fine tuning is often, really good for the structure. So making it respond in a format that you prefer. This one is all about making sure it has the data, the knowledge that it needs to be able to give you the response that you need. And this, I think, is a really important capability. And so this is available now. This is for the Mistral 7B model, and we're going to continue to make it available for more and more of the LLMs in our catalog. Okay. Coming to some of the things that we're learning. As I mentioned, we're running these LLMs in production. We run, I lost count now, but it's the Llama series, it's Mistral, it's Zephyr. We just released the latest Mixtral model, the 7x8b or 8x7b. That's 8x7b. That came out either yesterday, we released it yesterday or the day before. I can't even remember anymore. But that one's exciting as well. We're seeing lots of experiments. This is just a sampling of, what we see as we look at kind of the mixture of things we see across the model consumption, and a lot of, smaller model usage. And I think it's a lot of folks that are, really trying to figure out how they can leverage these smaller models, the performance, the cost savings, and the quality that they're actually getting out of, some of these smaller models. So it's very interesting to see. Another thing I, encourage folks to take a look at, germane to my original title for this talk, is building RAG-based LLM applications for production. If you haven't seen this, I'd really encourage a look. It's a pretty comprehensive guide that's updated, actually, that covers quite a bit around how to build these, or our experiences in how to build these RAG apps. We've been building these for a while now, and I think it's a really solid technical read just to help understand, some of the, not only the concepts, but some of the things that we struggle with, or some of the things that we learned along the way. So this is one I would definitely recommend. I don't think you'd be disappointed. And just to kind of come down the home stretch here, I'm going to talk just briefly, just to kind of share with you what we are building at AnyScale. I'll also have a little quick demo to show you one of the apps that we just recently released. I don't remember even how many we're up to now. It's like maybe 4 or 5. That I know of. I don't remember how many are actually out there now. So maybe I should have tempered that statement. But nevertheless, the thing that I've been talking about primarily is AnyScale Endpoints. And so it's basically open source LLMs being served and or fine-tuned via API. We're making the best open source models available for the best prices. It's very easy to get started. One of these things I want to make a challenge to folks and say, hey, go sign up before I'm finished with this slide, but I always forget to say that because it's a very quick experience. I was very pleased to see how we were able to do that. And then, like pricing wise, it's $1 per million tokens or less. I think our lowest price is 15 cents per million for the 7 billion parameter models. Mixtral 7B is 7x8B. 8x7B is, I think, 50 cents per million tokens. And so we're really just trying to get, LLMs in the hands of as many people as possible, get people to make these cool apps and, leverage all the performance and cost optimizations we're able to build into our solution underneath. So that's exciting. As I mentioned, we have a private endpoint solution. So for those folks that are interested in running LLMs, but they want it on their own private data in their own clouds, this is the private option we have, and it gives folks immediate time to market and all the great kind of privacy and control that comes from being able to run these solutions in your cloud, in your environment. We have the AnyScale platform, which goes beyond LLMs. I know I've talked a lot about LLMs today, but whether you're using Stable Diffusion, whether you're using computer vision models. A lot of folks, and the reason I asked about ML practitioners is because a lot of ML practitioners have leveraged this technology, Ray, underneath, which I'll talk about on the next slide, to be able to do, some of that hardcore work that, gets the machine learning workflows done. And so the AnyScale platform is all about packaging up all those workflows, making it easier for folks to get their workflows done, while also packaging in the infrastructure and ecosystem integrations. So that's one thing that we specialize in, making sure that we get the latest and greatest capabilities incorporated, the latest and greatest optimizations incorporated. A lot of what we do under the covers is related to the GPU optimizations we can offer. It's making sure we pack as much work as possible into each individual GPU so we don't have underutilization issues. That's something we hear our organizations we work with talk about. We leverage multiple GPUs to be able to distribute the workload and make sure we get things done as efficiently as possible and get things done quickly, which also then translates into lower cost oftentimes. And we make this all available in the AnyScale platform so you get faster, more cost-effective trading and serving of the models that you care about. And we do it in a way that enables you to basically compose any application that you can imagine. I think any application you can imagine, you could probably try to stump the chump on that one, but it's a very flexible system that, like I said, lots of innovators are using to build really cool stuff. And then ultimately, this is all built upon the power of the open source project. It's the Ray open source project. It's been out there for a little while. It's pretty widely used. It's one of the top workloads we hear in some of the clouds. And we're really proud of having that kind of under the hood. We continue to invest heavily in making sure that continues to stay super capable. And we're excited about our opportunities to continue to innovate there. All right. Enough for me. I'm going to show you a quick demo, something that we think is pretty cool. We have a blog post that was posted about this. This is something called Documentor. It's a GitHub bot that is intended to help people improve the writing in their PRs. Let me stop talking and I'll let Max take over.
Let me introduce you to Documentor, a new GitHub bot deployed to improve the writing in your pull requests. This bot is powered by AnyScale Services and AnyScale Endpoints in particular. And if you want to check out the source code, click the link below to GitHub. All right. Let's say we have a new pull request that changes two text files, one README, just Markdown, and one Python file that has a doc string, but both files are kind of flawed, have grammar mistakes and spelling errors. All right, let's create this pull request. And once we do, you will see that within a second or so, Documentor will actually respond by greeting you and telling you how to use it. The main command is Documentor run. And if we paste this command into a new command, the bot will be triggered and we will get a response soon. While this command is running, let me tell you about how Documentor actually works. So technically speaking, it is a GitHub app that needs to be installed on your GitHub repo. And once you app mention the bot, it will get triggered and send a webhook request to our backend service, which is an AnyScale service instance, which will in turn query AnyScale endpoints, in this case, a Llama 70B large language model. And this will respond with improvements for your documentation. And the AnyScale service will then leverage the GitHub API to write back a comment on your pull request. All right, let's see how we did. And you will see that Documentor finished analyzing the PR and it commented on the README and on the test file. It has some detailed instructions, and usually it finds all the grammar and spelling mistakes. And it also gives you improvements on how to do that. Like, for instance, here the parameters for your doc string could be L. All right. So how does it work in the background? Instead of sending all the request data for the diff in your pull request to one large language model, which can be quite a lot of work, we split up the work with a Ray task and send the content for each file, in our case, just 2 files, but could be much more in practice, to an individual large language model call. All right. This is done with Ray, right? And how do we know that it's actually any good? This is difficult, but the way we approach it is we first ask GPT-4 to generate some flawed sentences, like minor short sentences or or some paragraphs, and then we ask Documentor to improve it, after which GPT-4 has to judge the results of that. And if both of these systems, Documentor and GPT-4, agree largely, we consider this a good result. And so far in our evaluation, we've seen that Documentor actually gives quite solid and decent results. And of course, systems like these can always be improved, but we're quite happy with what the bot can do right now. Thanks so much.
All right. Thank you, Max. All right. Well, look, that brings me to the end of my prepared comments. I'll just call your attention to a few things. One, I encourage folks to take a look at AnyScale Endpoints. The website has lots of great documentation, gets you up and running very, very quickly, allows you to do whatever experiments you want. There's 1 million free tokens that we give away for free on that. But with the QR code, I'll give more tokens. So if you hit that, we'll ask a little bit more information from you, but in exchange, you'll get more free tokens as a result. And then the last thing is, please do check out our blog. One of the things that, we feel pretty strongly about is just sharing what we know. At the end of the day, we're trying to bring these models to more people. And we're also trying to just share our learnings. And, we have a lot of good content that, we hope is helpful for folks as they embark upon their LLM application journeys. All right. Well, thanks, folks. For us, it's super new. By the way, we released this, was it yesterday? I think it was literally yesterday. So when it comes to, what we see people using it for, it's a little bit premature, but I think, a lot of what we focus on is so in one dimension, we have tried to make it as easy as possible to move from OpenAI, or at least we incorporate our models alongside OpenAI, because I think that's what a lot of people are doing. When it comes to the specifics of, where we're better or worse, I tend to stay away from that. And I'd rather just focus on, what the use cases that people end up using it for are, as opposed to kind of try to do a bake-off, fortunately. My initial impressions of Mistral is that people were very excited about it. We saw a lot of people start to use it within their applications. And so it wasn't just that we were excited, we follow kind of what organizations and our developer users are actually interested in seeing. Mixtral also generated quite a bit of interest, and it's very interesting. It's a little bit different architecture to the models, and we're not only making it available, we're learning a little bit about how it works as a result, obviously, of running it. It's a 56 billion parameter model, even though I think it's actually a little bit less than that or something. Maybe it's 49. Can't remember anymore. But the point is, if you multiply out the number of kind of experts in there, you get a number, but the activation is much less than that. And so we're supposed to be able to see like similar performance to a larger model, but only activating, a much smaller number of parameters. And so from an infrastructure perspective, that's an interesting thing because it helps us to kind of get quality without having to pay, necessarily the same tax, if you will, for running a model. But yeah, we're really excited about seeing the usage and seeing, how that scales. And seeing, what that ultimately means when it comes to, again, the types of capabilities we can bring for a affordable price. For us, the models are what deliver the answers, right? So we want to make sure that the best models are available because that's ultimately going to be the thing that people want to get access to. But a lot of what we're focusing on is delivering capabilities around those models to help you build better applications, whether it's giving you capabilities to, fine tune those models so that you can get the structure that you want, giving you access to things like function calling to be able to, augment the LLMs with more capabilities and other things that we're considering to just make developers more capable of building more and more complex and innovative apps. I think that's a big part of our focus. It's not just on, bringing the cost down. That's going to continue, especially as, more and more accelerators become available, as these things get much more efficient. There's, I think, a lot of opportunity for optimization in how LLMs work. But yeah, we're focused both on bringing the cost down, but also about really expanding the amount of capabilities these things can have in addition to what they know and what they can reason. Yeah, one of the things we've been doing, and by the way, is this specific to a certain model or just in general?
I don't know what...
I'll say in general. We benchmark quite a few things. Some of the things we pay attention to are time to first token, inter-token latency, end-to-end delay, things of that nature. And of course, it's going to vary depending on the hardware you use, the type of model you're using, and all that kind of stuff. But I'll tell you in general terms, what I see is we see pretty good stability, at least in our experience, for the numbers, and we continue to invest in making them lower and lower over time. And there are things you can do to optimize for like time to first token versus end-to-end total time that it takes to answer a question. I think over time, what you're going to see is more and more options become available, because I'm not sensing that. I don't personally believe that it's going to be a one-size-fits-all world. Some people are going to want the best quality, but they don't need ultimate instantaneous latency. But then there's some that are going to require the fastest possible end-to-end time because they have a very interactive application. And so I think more and more we're going to see, yes, we do collect these benchmarks, but we're going to see a wide range of requirements, I think, from the market around what they actually need when it comes to performance from their LLMs. Just to be clear, we don't leverage OpenAI behind us. So we don't serve OpenAI. We sit next to OpenAI.
Okay. Yeah.
And so we're typically, and just to be clear, and the reason I'm not like us or OpenAI is because it's usually us and OpenAI. People will use OpenAI because of the quality of the models. But, as you scale, the cost of these things starts to become more of a concern, as though people start to make a little bit more judicious use of it, and send the questions that the open source models can answer very easily to those, and save maybe some of the more some of the more challenging questions, or the ones that really require the GPT-4 type of stuff to those models. And so we're not in dispute about like quality. It's more just what's the right LLM for your application and the use case.